Hello, I am Stephanie Donovan and I'm about to start my first session. I'm just going to pan the room so you can see my learners. Hello everybody. Hello everybody. Alright, I'm just going to place my camera up here so you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay, thank you everybody. Alright, can I see myself? Good. Alright, hello, thank you everybody. I am Stephanie Donovan, registered nurse on St Francis ward and student trainer and assessor. Hello Jo May, take a seat. That's okay. I've got one here. Yeah, I've got a board for you. Okay, so today's session is on improved medical terminology, abbreviation, common mistakes and how they affect us. A little bit of housekeeping. At the beginning of our session, it's just a legal requirement, so we're going to do it for all of our sessions. We have a sign-in, sign-out register that is going around, so Jermaine and whoever else hasn't signed it, if you could please sign and pass around. There is some room on the back. Now you all have a clipboard, I think, with a learner profile. That's so I can assess needs of the group, and it's also a bit of reflection for future study. And at the middle section, there is a bit of a quiz we're going to do in the middle during the session that we're going to self-mark, and at the end there is an evaluation that we're going to do in our own time. I do need to collect them all back. You can put your name on it if you want, or it can stay anonymous, the quiz. We have emergency exits next to the elevators, and at the end there is a stairwell as well. Muster points are the back car park where we park, and there is also numerous around the hospital. We all know our evacuation procedures, emergency alarms. Bathrooms are located at the elevator and in the staff room. We have kitchen facilities in here and in the staff room as well. After hours, we know that we have a security escort that can help us get to our cars. At the moment, we don't have any super strict COVID protocols, but in the past, you know that we've had masks and we've had rat tests, etc., so we're fine for now. And could I please ask, if you haven't done so, could you pop your phones to silent? So a little bit about me and why we're here. So as most of you know, I've worked here for a while. My name is Stephanie Donovan. I started at St John, God Murdoch, 10 years ago now, next month, in 2013. I first started as a patient care assistant on Thomas Furlong, and then I decided to do my enrolled nursing. I then went on to do my grad program on St Francis, decided to stay because I loved it so much. And then went on and did registered nursing, and I've since done postgrad in orthopaedic nursing and adult tertiary education. I'm currently doing my certificate 4 in training and assessment. And as a part of that, I need to do 2 40-minute training sessions in my industry workplace, which is why you guys are all here today. Okay. Thank you all for coming. I really do appreciate it. I know it's a lot. For you guys to come in early and on your own time and in your lunch breaks, but there is snacks. There's some behind you, Alyssa. There's some on this table here, and I really do appreciate you coming. I know there's a cheese board I made for you. And please remember that all education does count towards your annual CPD registration points. Registrations are due next month for anybody who hasn't already got their reminder. Okay, so introduction. Sorry, I'll step away from that light. Okay, so the use of medical terminology in healthcare is used to define a patient's condition and the care they need to receive accurately. Abbreviations are commonly used in the medical world to save time and space whilst writing in patients' medical records. One of the major causes of medication errors remains the ongoing use of potentially dangerous abbreviations and dose expressions. The definition of medical terminology is a system of words that are used to describe specific medical aspects and diseases. Alright, so as you are all quite probably familiar with, pass these around, we have our accepted prescribing terms and abbreviations. They are set out by the West Australian Government, and they are plastered in our medication room, and we're all quite familiar with those. There is a link if anybody would like the link, I can send it through to you. Now, are we familiar with these abbreviations, and do we use them quite routinely in our workplace? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a little bit tricky to read there, but yes, most of them we are pretty...
If we can read them.
If you can read them, yeah, exactly right, which is why we're here today. Has there been a time where you have seen a medical abbreviation used incorrectly, or have you been able to correctly interpret it? Name one of many, guys. In the last week alone, I have done numerous wristbands for medications that have been inaccurately documented, not been given correctly, been charted incorrectly. So there is multiple times where I myself have even found them, even in the last week. So is there any examples that anybody has off the top of their head recently where they have seen any medication abbreviation incorrectly written or prescribed?
Not incorrectly, but it looked like subcut or sublingual.
And it wasn't subcut, or you weren't able to...
We weren't able to decipher which one it was, but we knew what the drug was, so that's fine.
Yeah, and that's quite common on this one. And it probably looks something like this.
Yeah.
Yep. Alright, next slide, thank you. Okay, so you guys in your little clipboards have a table. Now this is not marked, this is just for your own kind of self-awareness. Now these are medical abbreviations that we commonly see, and everything in this presentation is kind of linked to what we see quite commonly on the ward. So I'm just going to give you a few minutes just to write your answer in the column on what you think the abbreviation means. There are a few that are correct and a few that are incorrect. So write your answers in the column, and then I will give you the correct answer as to what you think are correct or incorrect abbreviations. I can't see the... Yeah. It's in your packet, it's in the middle. Do you want a copy of the slide? Oh, I have a copy of the slideshow if anybody would like. Anybody afterwards? I have a few extra copies. Yeah, and I can also email you the slideshow if you'd like it. Right, let me know. And guys, of course, if you don't know the answer, don't stress. There is no right or wrong. It's just for your own. For your own. Yeah, have snacks, feed yourself, that's what it's there for. It's going to go to waste if we don't eat. Alright, shall we go through some of the answers?
Yeah.
Alright, so one of the most common mistakes that I found in all of my research was units. U is, we're going to go into it a little bit later, what is probably the most common medication abbreviation that is, this is not correct at all.
No.
And we'll go into that a bit later. Micrograms is one that we see quite frequently. This is not at all in any way, shape or form an approved abbreviation. Normal saline is one we probably do see. It's actually, I mean, most of our anaesthetists and doctors are pretty good at prescribing sodium chloride, but we do on occasion see saline. Normal saline is actually meant to be prescribed as sodium chloride, or 9%. Subcut is another one we see quite often, especially on our medication charts, and I think that's probably due to spacing more than anything. It's meant to be written as subcut or subcutaneous. Sublingual is another one. The two that were correct were sup and millimole. Has anybody got that? Now, the two that I have actually been writing wrong myself are left and right. We're actually supposed to write left and right. If you guys did not know that, I did not know that. So I'm guilty myself of writing left and right. So this is more tailored to patients' notes and clinical records. Things like neurovascular charts where there is actually a key that says left and right, you are allowed to use left and right symbols because there is a key in the documentation. But in patients' notes, anything like that, we're actually supposed to use left and right. So
Micrograms, MCG?
no, it's not correct.
What is that sentence? Oh.
Yeah. My email is incorrect because it can be mistaken for other things. So micro. Micro.
MCG. Well, that's written heaps.
I know that's one we get a lot, and subcut and sublingual is another one we get a lot as well.
So on the red chart, they're not allowed to
No.
write.
So the doctor shouldn't be
The
writing
doctors
about
should be, yeah, and this is the thing I'm finding a lot in all of our research is the doctors have probably need a lot more education.
Yeah. They most probably won't just do it quickly, so.
Yeah, they're exactly. There's probably a space and timing thing, but yeah, no. So the doctors aren't meant to be doing this, but they are. Okay, and then the last one I just threw in there as well is intrathecal morphine should actually be written as intrathecal morphine, but we all know that. We write the short abbreviation on our handover sheets because it's not actually a document. We just use it for our own abbreviation.
We can write on the board.
Yeah, and so we use it for our own purposes, and I think as long as we are all uniform in our approach and we understand that, as long as in the patient's notes we're writing intrathecal morphine, I think we're safe. Next slide, please.
Can we do subcut morphine? Same thing? Or not? It's not.
No.
I never write
Something
intrathecal morphine in the notes, I always put.
I know, and this was something I realised as I was going through all of my research. There's a lot of doctor's errors, and the best thing I think we can do as nurses is we can do what's right for us and best in our practice. And
I'll just put spinal in future, I won't bother
Can we do spinal morphine?
technically it's intrathecal, but you'd have to follow that up with Karen. I can answer that question for you. Right, principles for safe, clear and consistent terminology. Use plain English, avoid jargon. Write all characters clearly and individually, especially when writing medicine names. Use instructions and routes of administration in full. Avoid using abbreviations with patients, especially Latin abbreviations that aren't completely understood. Instructions must be clear. Avoid using vague statements such as take as directed. So, especially for patient discharge education, use clear directions as necessary to check the medication dose for dispensing and administration to support effective counselling. Basically,
We shouldn't be dispensing medications anyway.
yes, but basically, for discharge education, clear instructions, plain English, avoid jargon is basically the key points to take away from that. Prescribing principles for doctors. So, main point to take away from this, doctors don't always get it right, so it's up to us to be aware, be vigilant, and always ask if unsure. Use generic names, active ingredients or approved names. Now there is exceptions. They can be made for combination products, but only if the trade name adequately identifies the medicines being prescribed. For example, combination products containing
Done.
a penicillin may not be identified as penicillins if the trade names are used. So, example, augmentin should not be written as augmentin. Tazocin should not be written as tazocin. It should be written in. It should not be as people, Taz or whatever they like to use, it should be written like this. Alright. Prescribing principles continue. So more exceptions can be made if the product formulations, if there is a risk of product formulations and selection errors. So, as you can see, oxycodone and oxycodone control release are very similar. So in that instance, endone and oxycodone are the safer alternative. So that's why we have some of them as generic names and some of them as trade names, in case you were ever wondering why some doctors do write endone instead of oxycodone. Same with the rapid Lantus, because they're quite similar, there is quite a high risk of error, so that's why we use Lantus and rapid. Medicine names need to be written in full. We're not meant to abbreviate medications. Now, we have a national tollman lettering list, which I wasn't completely aware of. National tollman lettering list. Set out as per the Australian Commission on Safety and Quality in Healthcare. Click to the next one. So here is a bit of a snapshot, and I'll pass that around in case anybody wants to have a look at this one. So tollman lettering was basically an initiative for similar name or similar looking medications. So a list of some of the ones that we have: tramadol to pentadol. So tramadol, tap, pentadol. Tap, pentadol. Morphine hydromorphone. So the idea of it is that you overemphasize the bigger letters. So tap, pentadol, tramadol. And I don't know if you've noticed, but on our medication S8, S4 cupboards, we actually have the ordering stickers actually are written in tollman letters. So you'll probably notice that now when you go in there, the ones for pharmacy are actually written in tollman letters. Novamix, Navrapid, Oxycontin, Oxynorm, Kefalexin, Kefazolin, all written in tollman letters.
Is this a new thing?
No. No. And there's a whole thing. You can Google it as well. They use it. It's a lot more emphasised in the public system more than here, which is why I think we aren't entirely aware of it. But it is definitely a part of our medication. It is incorporated. You just don't see it as much as we probably do need a little bit more education.
The new online module, which will be around doing education safety, it highlights that as well.
I think maybe we should do that in our S8 books when we write them on the top.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
We're in
Right.
with pen.
Okay, yes, and I've starred the ones that are a little bit, this was just a snippet from the quality there, but it's just a snippet of the ones that we use, and I just starred the ones that are a bit common tasks. Okay, so I have some summary sheets here as well. That one we're doing, and you can have this one doing. Alright, so
Have we got a sheet of these that's available not just for us but for the grads? And they must probably know it better than even us. But
these ones are available on Quora.
I know, but we should have a laminate
We
set of
should.
these.
We should.
So
I agree.
there's a quick preference. Can we ask Jane
Yeah.
to laminate both of these?
Yeah, do you know what? I have laminated versions of not the summaries, but of the actual longer extended abbreviations, but we can definitely get that all
Okay.
Yeah, because they're fantastic, aren't they?
They are.
I found a lot of really interesting resources doing this, doing a lot of this research, which is great. Okay, so recommendations for terminology, abbreviations, and symbols used in medicine documentation. So this is a summary sheet that's been this is the current one, and it's been around since December 2016. So the summary sheet is a list of safe terms, abbreviations, dosage, destinations, and medications. Safe terms and abbreviations should be written exactly as they're shown. Includes doses, frequency, timing, routes, units of measurement, and dosage forms. So here are a few that we use. Feel free to point out a few that I haven't highlighted. I just put stars next to the ones that we use, and it's just a snippet of the summary there. And I also have the extended version. So ones that we use quite often, there's intrathecal, IV, oral, PR, subparts subcutaneous, once a day, hourly, greater or less than, MANE, NOPDAY, BD, all these ones, 4, 6, 8 hourly when required. So there's obviously a few there that we do use a little bit more frequently, but they're the ones that I kind of highlighted that we probably use daily. Most of them we do use, and we do use quite well. Things like subcut, we obviously can improve on that. And ones that we probably struggle to read sometimes with doctors' handwriting are maybe 4, 6, 8 hourly, maybe some of these ones. That's why it's always good to clarify. A few more here. Sublingual is another one that we tend to get wrong as far, well, doctors tend to get wrong as far as prescribing. Units is a bad one. Microbands is another one. Capsule's pretty good. And these ones are all suppository, tablet, and PCA are all pretty good as well. Right, I don't know if many of you know this. I know Alyssa does, because I taught her last year. But the hospital has a policy on approved abbreviations.
They do.
Yes.
That's why we need the
Did everybody know that?
laminated.
I have a copy of the policy. If anybody wants to read it, it is current, I did check. Here we go, don't I? Pass around. Okay, so basically, the abbreviations and acronyms policy, this is the current one, I did check the other day. The purpose of the policy is to provide caregivers with direction on the use of abbreviations and acronyms in clinical documentation, promote patient and consumer safety in the uniform approach to clinical records, contribute to St John of God Healthcare strategic theme of clinical excellence. The policy states the subject matter definitions are as follows. Abbreviations refer to the shortening of specific clinical words and terms. An acronym is an abbreviation formed from the initial letters of other words and pronounced as a word. Whew. A breach of policy is a fun one. Caregivers must use the abbreviation and acronyms as listed in the Health Information Management of Australia Association's Dictionary of Clinical Abbreviations, Acronyms and Symbols, which is this one, which is the summary sheet. The link to Quora takes you straight to this summary sheet, takes you straight to this one. So the hospital isn't trying to reinvent the wheel, the hospital is giving you a link straight to the approved WA government guidelines. So they're not taking you off on their own little tangent, they're bringing you straight to the recommendations. Access to the dictionary is on ZenWorks if you're working remotely. Use of full words and not abbreviations on consent forms is part of the consent policy. Failure to comply with this policy by a member of St John of God Healthcare may be considered a breach of code of conduct. Alright, are abbreviations really shortcuts? Throughout healthcare, shortcuts such as abbreviations and symbols are often used to save time when communicating medication orders, especially in handwritten communication. However, some of these shortcuts can be very time consuming for the person on the receiving end and can be dangerous to the patient. Abbreviations and non-standard dose designations are frequently misinterpreted and often lead to errors resulting in harm. Now look at these two medication orders that I got from the internet. Now I will tell you they are from an American site, and this abbreviation here is an American abbreviation. Couldn't for the life of me tell you what it is, couldn't find it, so ignore that. But can we interpret these orders, ladies? Any idea?
You could say human log 44 units at breakfast and then 24 at lunch and 64 in the evening. That's
That's what it
maybe.
looks like.
That's maybe, but it might be. It's not the date.
4 units, 2 units,
Basically
4
2
units, 2 units.
Yeah. And what about the flow max?
4 times that milligrams or milligrams? They're all not 4 times.
Right, go to the next one. Right, here are your answers. 4 units, 2 units, 6 units, 14 units of bedtime. Apparently that means bedtime. I don't know how they got that from that. But anyway, Americans for you. And then flow max, 0.4 milligrams PO once a day. So this was caught before any harm was caused to the patient. This one, the patient was given 44 units.
Yes.
Yep. So that's fun. But as you can see, this is why units is such a hugely problematic abbreviation. Is that a lot of you got 4 for that? That can be misinterpreted as a 0 or as a 4, and that's why it should be prescribed as units. Yeah, horrible. Saw that and I was like, what? And I believe very recently the hospital had a similar incident. I think it was like 66 units or something was given somewhere in the hospital, and yeah, very similar error. Errors can occur when nurses take patients' medical history. The doctors are prescribing medications incorrectly and then also not double checking with the patient. So as you can see, there's a chain of errors going on there. The nurses are also misreading the medication charts due to illegible handwriting. So it's up to us as nurses to always second guess and to always double check and go back to the patient. And if the patient's not even 100% sure, we're going back to the doctor or we're going back to their GP, going back to the pharmacist, always double, triple checking, because that is a pretty decent dose. 44 units.
They also say, Steph, that the nurses are writing up the medications in the day procedure unit, and if they're incorrect, which they can be, the doctor just writes them off of their willy-nilly, and
yeah, which is the chain. We're not double checking; it's turning into this chain, which is why it's our responsibility to not just take that as gospel. Alrighty, so I know we've all been sitting for a little bit. I just want everybody to get a little bit loosey-goosey, stand up. I want someone to do that stretch. No, I'm joking. Nobody has to do that stretch. I just wanted to know no one's going to do it. Okay. No, I'm. There you go. Go to the next one.
not satisfactory.
Fail.
Alright, so I know I wasn't even going to.
Well, we can stretch if you want.
Yeah, well, if you want to, get up and do a little bit of a deep. Go for it. Okay, now what am I looking for here? Alright, a few more things to hand out and then we're done, guys. Okay, so a few little bits and pieces from you. I'll hand one to you, Vicky, because I think it's interesting. And then Joe may probably think this is interesting too. Alright, so something I found while I was doing my research, which I didn't actually know myself, can really find this interesting too. The World Health Organization has got an initiative called Medication Without Harm. Unsafe medication practices and medication errors are a leading cause of injury and avoidable harm in the healthcare systems across the world. Globally, the associated cost of medication errors has been estimated at $42 billion USD annually. That's a lot.
Errors here in Australia.
Yeah, it's combined amounts. Couldn't get an Australian figure for you exactly, because Australia doesn't keep super accurate records. Errors can occur at different stages of the medication use process. Medication errors occur when weak medical systems and/or human factors such as fatigue, poor environmental conditions or staff shortages affect prescribing, transcribing, dispensing, administration and monitoring practices, which then can lead to severe harm, disability and even death. Multiple interventions to address the frequency and impact of medication errors have already been developed, and their implementations a little bit varied from country to country, place to place, and how they're monitored. In response, WHO has identified medication without harm as a theme for their third Global Patient Safety Initiative Challenge. WHO's goal is to achieve widespread engagement and commitment of WHO member states, so pretty much the 12 countries, and professional bodies around the world to reduce the harm associated with medication errors. So this little chart that's going around is this one here. So it's the strategic framework, which is a bit of a wheel. It's a bit hard to read on this one, I'm sorry. It's a bit blurry if we blew it up anymore. I do have little ones if anybody wants to have a look at that. I do have some slides there. Okay, so 4 domains to the challenge, 16 subdomains and 3 key action areas. The strategic framework of the Global Patient Safety Challenge depicts 4 domains, 1, 2, 3, 4, of the challenge: patients and the public, healthcare professionals, medicines and systems, and practices of medication. The framework describes each domain through 4 subdomains, and the 3 key action areas are mainly polypharmacy, high-risk situations, and transitions of care, and they're all relevant in each domain, which is why they're in the inner circle. Medication without harm aims to reduce severe avoidable medication-related harm by 50% globally in the next 5 years. It was formally launched at the second Global Ministerial Patient Safety Summit in Bonn, Germany in March 2017. So 5 years from then. Alright. Hold on. Go forward one.
So this is ongoing.
This is ongoing. Yeah, so sorry, keep going, Des. No, back that way. Keep going. Yeah, this one. Okay, so the snippets. So Australia has a draft response to this. So every country has done their own internal investigation as it relates to their country, because obviously every country's health system is a little bit different. Australia's done a draft response to this. It's taken a couple of years for them to collate their research and to come up with these responses. So overall, the goal of WHO in regard to the challenge is to reduce medication errors and the avoidable medication-related harm. In Australia, the goal is to reduce avoidable medication errors, adverse drug events, and medication-related hospital admissions by 50% by 2025. So that's Australia's initiative by 2025 to reduce by 50%. A collaborative approach that enhances consumer engagement with their medicines will seek to respond to inappropriate polypharmacy, and we know polypharmacy is 5 or more medications being used by a patient to treat whatever their ailments are. Reduce harm from high-risk medications and improve medication safety at transitions of care, whether that be to in our ward, rehab, home, to other wards, whatever that may be. Second response. Response examines existing programs that address the 3 WHO flagship areas, noting that the scope of challenge has been refined to align with the Australian content, monitoring polypharmacy and responding to inappropriate polypharmacy, reducing harm from high-risk medicines with focus on insulin, opioid analgesics, anticoagulants and antipsychotics. So as they relate to us, high-risk medications, insulin, opioids, anticoagulants, maybe not so much antipsychotics unless we have an mental health patient. Improving medication safety and at transitions of care with focus on shared medication lists. I don't know how much that relates to us, but I'm sure there's room for improvement. Cultural change within healthcare systems must also occur in order to deliver the best results for patients. Healthcare professionals should work closely together across all areas in order to not only address the significant issue of over-medication, which can lead to medication safety issues, but improve shared care with more comprehensive knowledge and support. Professional regulation in parallel to this will help ensure adequate training in safe and effective medicines used embedded in undergraduate training, as well as contributing to professional development. So Australia has obviously done its best to incorporate whose initiatives into its own framework. If you go back one. Yeah. So, what are our thoughts on Australia's response, and how do you think our hospital is incorporating it? Any ideas? No? Okay.
I think
I
open
don't think
disclosure.
we even know that there's a plan to have a safety challenge or what, you know,
So, what our
totally unaware.
the hospital has implemented some of the changes as far as the insulin chart, the changes to the insulin chart. They have the
Is
strong.
this part of the
It's part of-
2025 challenge to
Yeah. So the
decrease?
hospital. Yeah. So the hospital at a higher up level has started implementing. So they're not directly involved in the challenge, but they are aware of the government's involvement, and then it's kind of filtering down. So the hospitals are all been given these kind of challenges. Can you meet this criteria? Meet this criteria. So as far as high-risk medications, yes, there's a lot more focus on that. A lot more focus on insulin, yes. A lot more focus on opioids, possibly. There's always been a high focus on
why don't
opioids.
they change the names between tramadol and tapentadol then? Because that seems very basic to me.
It does, but that's, I think, something that is a lot further up than us. Yeah, I think that's a much higher up issue. That's not
Sorry?
hospital based.
Coincidence isn't that common.
Yeah, that's a.
You know, that would be the highest incidence of mistakes on our ward, I would say.
That's
So
hospital.
why doesn't the hospital initiate, why don't the hospitals approach the drug companies to do that? I mean, we can talk about it all you like, but nothing.
You know,
it's done.
I completely agree with you. I don't know how else to answer that. But anticoagulants, I think we're pretty good as far as, well,
We are vigilant
We
because
are
we've got joint replacements.
yeah, we are, but I don't know how well the rest of the
Yeah.
hospital is with it. The only thing I think that maybe we just don't see it as much because of surgical ward, maybe medical wards do, but the transitions of care and medication list as far as transitions of care, I don't know how well we're doing with that. That's something I would need to do further research in myself. I did contact quality, didn't get a response, a lot of them were on leave. So I did contact a few people in quality and didn't get current figures and I tried. So that's something I can look into in the future. Okay, so we're getting to the end, guys, I promise. Okay, so during my research, I did find this. So I do have a copy of Australia's draft response if anybody wants to have a look at that. I did find a copy of this.
Sorry, who made the draft response?
The Australian Commission on Quality and Safety in Healthcare.
Is that a government body? Is that?
It is. And it's ongoing, that's the most recent copy. So during my research, I found this lovely research article. It is from 2015, so it is a few years old and I couldn't find something recent to compare it with, but I thought it was interesting to involve in the session because it does relate to us. So general GPs, it was their understanding of abbreviations used in discharge letters. So the objectives were to determine the instance of abbreviation in electric hospital discharge letters and the general practitioner's understanding of abbreviations in those letters. The outcomes measured were the number of abbreviations and frequencies used in those letters, and then obviously the GP's understanding was measured through a survey. The limitations was obviously it was done in 2015, there wasn't something more recent to compare it to. Yes, there was no comparison, but I will get to that. So next one. Okay, results. Only as they related to orthopedics, otherwise we'll be here all day. So there was 321 abbreviations in the audit. No individual abbreviation was correctly interpreted by all GPs. That blew my mind a little bit. So not one single GP in the 321 abbreviations was able to correctly identify any of the abbreviations correctly. So that's why I thought it was interesting.
Help the patients.
Exactly right. So that's why I thought it was interesting.
About patients.
I mean, yes, it was 2015, but that isn't really that long ago in the big scheme of things, which I thought was a bit scary. And this is a little bit scarier for us. So the 6 abbreviations that were misinterpreted by more of a quarter of GPs, so 3 that related more to us, No known drug allergy was misinterpreted by 32.6 of the GPs. CTPA, yep, CTPA 31.1%, and ORF was misinterpreted by 28% of the GPs.
Have you got a list of those so we can cull them?
So, okay, I will stress that this was done in 2015, and the reason I was not able to find a recent study was because now we have, the GPs now have an access to online glossaries, which weren't available back then. So obviously,
That's good.
yeah, so that is a positive. So that's why I wasn't able to find anything else more recent to compare it to. I did do a lot of research trying to find something else, but couldn't. So that's a positive, but it is a little bit scary to think that some of the older GPs, as we all know, don't like to keep very current. They all kind of, some of them are in the dark ages. So just to keep that in mind, that some of our older patients might still have those GPs. There might still be those ones practicing that don't have this knowledge that we have in everyday practice, that our patients might also have this same sort of level of misunderstanding. So I thought it was really relevant to bring it in, just to give us a little bit of maybe the shock to think, okay, maybe our doctors don't all have the same level of knowledge that you think that they should have had in a medical degree. So anybody who's interested in that study, I have it here for you. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting that none of them could correctly identify the same abbreviation. Yeah, next one. Okay, so quickly we're just going to run through these because we're running close to time. So recommendations through the National Coordinating Council for Medication Error Reporting and Prevention. This is you can keep that, Joanne. This is an American association, but what I found is that all of our government authorities and safety standards all base all of their knowledge and all of their recommendations from this American company. They just changed the wording to suit our system. So all prescriptions need to be legible, verbal orders need to be minimised. Prescriptions orders need to be brief. Prescriptions need to be written in the metric system. So yes, even Americans are trying to convert to the metric system as far as medication is concerned, so that it's a uniform approach and reduces the risk of errors. Yeah, everything should be metric. Prescribers should include patient's age and weight when appropriate. It's more for children. Prescriptions need to include drug name, concentration and dose, because a lot of, especially Americans, don't do that one. This one I found interesting. Not so much here, but it does happen. And I have seen it actually here recently. Medications are sometimes written 0.4 is written as 0.4. There should always be a preceding 0, and 4 milligrams should not be written as 0. As you can see how there is a risk of error there. So they're saying the 0 should only be done if it is a point. This has happened and it has resulted in errors recently. So I can see how that is a huge factor contributing to errors. So this is something that we need to be mindful of, and we need to be double checking if there's a lot of zeros involved in orders. Yes, we don't use Latin abbreviations, avoid vague terms. Twice daily, we should really be writing the times rather than twice daily or BD. The doctors really should be prescribing the times. We shouldn't be writing in the times as nurses, or we should be clarifying. Not always possible, but shouldn't be writing twice daily. Same with Mane and Nocte, there should be times written. And practitioners should be offering counselling and education to their patients. That's more our job rather than the doctors. All persons who prescribe medication have access to, so it's basically saying that anyone who prescribes medication to a patient, even RMOs at night time, should have appropriate medical history, patient allergies, reaction, diagnosis, list of current medications, etc. Not always possible, but they should. It's part of recommendations. No, most of the time they don't, but just be aware that this is the standard recommendation and practice. And they should be conducting initial and ongoing assessments of their patients for risk identification. Right, so in summary, medical abbreviations are used to decrease the time needed to communicate and allow doctors to treat the patient quicker. Should have /nurses there. Abbreviations should be used accurately in order to avoid any costly mistakes. And then how can we apply this to our work? We've already discussed that at length. Thank you for coming, everybody. I really, really do appreciate your time. I know there was a lot of content squeezed into a short amount of time, but I did find a lot of very interesting information there. I have got my contact information there if anybody has any question or wants any copies of any of the information. You're welcome to keep
I'm
those.
going to just give this to pharmacy.
Yeah. You can keep any of the handouts. I do need the learner profiles, the quizzes, and if you could please all just do that circle evaluation for me, I need to keep those. But the rest of the stuff,
that
you
yours?
guys feel free to keep. And if you haven't signed the sign-in
yours?
sheet, could I please have anybody who hasn't signed the sign-in sheet, I need that one done as well.
Oh my god.
Thank you. And feel free to eat all the food. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Steph. That was very informative. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Nice one.